Welcome to episode 8 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on May 18th, 2019. Today, I'd like to talk to you about, well, a whole lot actually, so let's just get right into it today. Normally, I do the giveaway winner first in the episode, but I'm really too excited this time about a couple of other things. You know, I started outlining this episode 3 days ago, and I felt like I didn't really have anything to say this time around. And then so much happened that I think it may end up being one of the longer episodes. First, I am so thrilled. The tickets for classes and events at Shetland Wool Week went live this morning at 5 a.m. my time. My dear children got up out of bed at 4:45 in the morning to help me get classes. It's my first time going to Wool Week, and I had heard so many stories about the classes all selling out completely in under 30 minutes that I was feeling very anxious about getting any of the classes at all, let alone the ones I really wanted. So I was very nervous. This is the 10th anniversary of the event, and when the schedule came out, they noted that they'd added a lot of extra events this year, so that did quell my fears a little, but I was still anxious. I adore Shetland, and I really do hope to move there someday, but who knows what the future holds. I want to make sure that I make the most of this first Wool Week trip in case there isn't a second one. So I made up a list of classes I wanted to attend and enlisted family to help. My husband had to go to the Philippines for work, and while he was there, he was having a tooth looked at. And we realized that his appointment was scheduled to start right as the classes went live. So he actually talked to his dentist and they agreed to wait. How amazing is that? I feel like I really had a lot of first year luck. I was able to get a class tour or talk arranged for every time block that I was hoping for, and I have a few gaps that will allow me to go do some of the drop-in events. I am so thrilled, and I can't wait for September to roll around. Most of the classes I'm signed up for have to do with Fair Isle knitting techniques, but I will have a full-day workshop to knit a mini Shetland hat or a shawl, and my husband and I will be taking a class together to whittle a shawl pin. I thought he'd like that, and I'll end up with 2 shawl pins. We'll also be doing a few tours and events like that together. If you have a non-knitter partner, they really do a good job of making sure that there are events that you can do together that cover other areas of interest, like farming or wood, glass, and silver work, as well as just general tours of the islands. I was really hoping to get a class with Hazel Tyndall, but her classes really go fast. But I did get a ticket for the quiz night with her and Janet Budge, so I plan to start studying up for that. I have a few homework assignments to get done so that I have projects started to take into a few of the classes, and I still need to knit my Wool Week hat for the group photo. So I'm really looking forward to September, but I'm also glad I still have 4 months to prepare because I am still hoping to send in my Master Knitting Level 1 work before Wool Week starts, and I finally have figured out my seed stitch. Last episode, I talked about how paying close attention as I worked and working the stitches, just using the tips of the needles, was a big help at creating a consistent seed stitch for me, but it still wasn't perfect. And yes, I know, in the Master Hand Knitter program, we are meant to knit like hand knitters and not like machines, but I thought I could do better. There was still something about my technique that I needed to fix. So I kept practicing my seed stitch, and I turned to YouTube for some help. And there are a lot of videos about seed stitch on YouTube, but they are almost all just tutorials about how to make the stitch, or they're about how to fix your seed stitch if you make a mistake somewhere and you don't want to, frog back rows and rows to fix it. Of course, that just involves dropping one stitch down from the top of your work and letting it ladder its way down, and then using a crochet hook to reform the stitches in the proper orientation. But anyway, there's only one video I could find that addressed how to knit consistent seed stitch, and that's the video I originally watched by Arenda Holladay probably 2 months ago now. And so I almost didn't watch it again, but it really was the only one I could find that addresses the issue. So I decided to watch it in case I missed something. Her observation is that when you switch from knit to purl, you end up with excess yarn in the purl stitch because of that transition with the yarn. This is the same thing that can happen when you work 2x2 ribbing and end up with the leftmost stitch of your ribbing looking larger than the right side stitch. Her fix for that is that when you bring the yarn forward for the purl, you should stop and give it a tug before working the knit stitch, and then that will get rid of the excess yarn and your stitches will end up the right size. And she made a comment something like, and it's the same fix for seed stitch, and then went on to show that when you switch the yarn to the front, you should give it a tug and work the purl. But when I was knitting my 2x2 ribbing, that did not work for me. What worked for me was to do the knit stitches like normal and then do that first purl stitch like normal and then give the yarn a tug. And that way it took the excess yarn out of the purl stitch. And then I would do the next purl stitch. I'm sure that Arenda's way works for a lot of people. Otherwise, she wouldn't leave the video up. She is, after all, a Knitting Guild Association teacher, and a lot of people turn to her for answers. But what I found when I was giving the yarn a tug before I worked the purl stitch was that it was tightening up the previously worked knit stitch. So it was making the knit stitch even smaller, and then the purl seemed even bigger, or in the case of the seed stitch, the holes were still occurring at that transition point. After working the purl stitch, when I take the yarn to the back and then give it a tug to snug up the stitch on the needle, it takes the excess just out of the purl stitch, which is where the excess was hanging around anyway. That said, that one line of hers that the thing that worked for ribbing would be the same thing that worked for seed stitch, that is what gave me my, well, duh moment. So I'm glad I watched the video again, even if my fix was different from hers. So I knit several rows of seed stitch, paying attention, using just the tips of the needles and snugging up the yarn after working a purl stitch. And I think I have finally got a seed stitch that is consistent enough to please the judges. Or at least I hope so. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, I will have swatch 3 well and truly done and be able to move on. So that's all my exciting stuff that I felt like I had to share right away. Let's talk about the giveaway. Before I do, I still have not heard from the winner of the last giveaway. So Bonnie J, if you hear this, please reach out to me on Ravelry with your contact information. I will keep trying to reach out to you too, but as we go forward, I'm going to put a deadline on contacting me about these giveaways because unfortunately, I just don't have the tolerance for the physical and mental clutter that they create when they are not claimed. And I don't think it's really fair to the other listeners or to the kind makers who are donating some of these prizes to have them go unclaimed. So the day that the episode releases, I always reach out to the winner to let them know they've won using whatever means they won with. So if they won as an Instagram follower, I reach out to them through Instagram, Ravelry winners through Ravelry, etc. And I think 30 days is a fair amount of time to claim a prize. So going forward, all giveaway prizes will need to be claimed within 30 days of the day the episode launches that announces their win. Those that aren't claimed after 30 days will go back into the box of giveaway items to be re-awarded. Okay, all of that said, this last giveaway was for a selection of items that I picked up at the Connecticut Sheep Wool and Fiber Festival, including a taster hank from Once Upon a Corgi, some knitting tools from Katrinkles, a stitch marker from 7th Floor Yarns, a little picture, and some stitch markers from me. To enter, you just had to follow me on Instagram or Ravelry for 1 entry each, but you could get 5 bonus entries by sharing a story from your teen years on the Ravelry thread for episode 7 that makes you laugh now when you look back on it. If you have not checked out that thread, you should go have a peek. There were some great giggles and groans to be had. All told, there were 359 entries by 6 p.m. on May 17th when I did the drawing, and Siri picked 303 at random, which was Nitty Moomin, who is an Instagram follower. So congratulations. If you haven't heard from me yet, check your direct messages on Instagram. There's another giveaway with this episode. Makers have been very generous with the giveaways. If you are a yarn craft related maker and would like to contribute to a giveaway, let me know. I'll talk about what's in this giveaway at the end of the episode because I want to talk about some of the components of the giveaway before I actually tell you what the giveaway is. In the meantime, let's take a break real quick for some music. I came across a group the other day called Torelli and the Fuse. They are out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and have been together since 2012. It is Dre Torelli, Zachary Knight, and Jarvis Carpenter. I really like their sound, and both of the songs this week will be from Torelli and the Fuse. The first one is called Legacy and is part warning, part call to action to not let the distractions of the modern world keep us from hitting our potential. Have a listen.
I know this guy who used to sit and play video games all day. He gets what he wants, so he never has to work for anything he gets. This seems like luck in the beginning, but slowly turns into something that can't be revived. Now days go by while his legacy dies, 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 oh, his legacy dies. People in your ear make you feel valid and have you thinking that your future's secure. If you have a high hope, you don't have to grab it, cause it'll just come. Yeah, you're destined to have it. Complacent life with no steps taken to try and realize you're dreaming away, and it all slips by while your legacy dies. Your legacy dies, your legacy dies, your legacy dies, yeah, your legacy dies. Your legacy dies, yeah, your legacy dies, your legacy. He can't feel whole, cause he's so confused with life. It's simplicity, dishonesty will sometimes yield a profit. But in the end, the truth will win time and time again, is why his legacy dies. His legacy dies, 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 dies.
I've been working on a few things over the last little while. I started a crochet blanket the other day using a partial skein of acrylic from my stash. It ended up not being enough, and the yarn is old enough that I didn't think I'd be able to find a matching color for it. I don't even have the label anymore, so I'm not sure who even made the yarn. So I just pulled it apart and started making squares for the Knitter's Pride Spring Charity Knit and Crochet Along to make blocks for Warm Up America. Warm Up America takes the blocks and makes them into blankets for those in need. I'd planned on making a contribution to the effort, but life has been so busy on my end. But then my husband had to go out of town, so I've been doing all the kid transporting. And I'm just taking balls of yarn with me everywhere as I run them to their various youth activities and babysitting jobs. I have been crocheting since I was very little and did it for probably a decade before I started knitting, so I can do it entirely by feel at this point. So I've even been working on the blocks while I've been doing my reading. As a result, I've done about 20 so far in about 4 days. And I think I have enough acrylic left for 10 or so more of the blocks. I crochet them as a row of double crochet followed by a row of single crochet and just alternate between the two. I find it's a nice balance between drape and density. Single crochet on its own can be too dense and stiff, while double crochet on its own can be too airy and stretchy. So I think this is a nice middle ground. Plus, because crochet is so much quicker than knitting, these blocks have been flying off my hooks. Other than that, I've been doing my seed stitch practice, and I also finally got around to blocking my Gaia shoulder hug and cold sand cowl. The Gaia shoulder hug is really a small shawl if you make it with just one of the balls of Noro Tayo like I did. I wore it the other day with the point in front and the long ends wrapped behind and back to the front, and it was a nice little wrap that kept the wind off the back of my neck on an otherwise nice spring day. The cold sand cowl, I love it so much. The design is by Melanie Rice Designs, and it's a mostly garter stitch cowl that has lace inserts at the front. The front comes down like a wing from the main cowl part. I knit the large version and I can almost pull it down over my shoulders. I imagine some women could get away with that actually, but I have fairly broad shoulders myself. Still, it's a lovely drapey cowl, and I knit it in the Dragonfly Fiber Selkie Sport. And I think the yarn and the pattern suited each other perfectly. I may make another one of these for a Christmas gift later this year. Speaking of Dragonfly fibers, I cast on an Iron Maiden shawl with their Dance Rustic Silk in Dragonberry yesterday, which is a rich red color. And I am loving this combination so much that it basically ruined the rest of my day because I could not put it down. The shawl design is from Made in Brooklyn and is available on Ravelry. It's a very airy shawl with slanting rows of eyelets through the main body and an open pointed lace border along the edge. The yarn is simply divine to work with. It's 100% silk noil. Sometimes this is referred to as raw silk, but silk noil has its different look because it's spun up from shorter lengths of silk and tends to be lower in luster than typical silk yarns. It looks more cottony. I've knit with silk noil in the past that has been fairly rough on my hands and knit up pretty stiffly until it was washed and then it softened. So I expected the same from this Dance Rustic Silk, but it's actually very soft to the touch. And as I knit with it, it feels almost creamy as it runs over my fingers, and the resulting fabric is already draping beautifully. I have not allowed myself to pick it up today because I knew if I did, I wouldn't get this episode recorded. I would just want to sit and work on it for the rest of the day. I'm really looking forward to wearing the finished shawl. Dragonfly Fibers was kind enough to send me this hank, and I have a hank for one of you from them as well. So listen to the end of the show for details on that giveaway. I've been using Drops detergent for almost a year now. I love the convenience of the product. I have it arranged so that once a quarter, I get all my laundry detergent shipped to me at the same time. You'd think that would require a huge box, but their detergent pods are highly concentrated, so they don't take up much space, and it all arrives in a package about the size of 2 shoe boxes. They use no plastics, just recyclable cardboard, and most importantly, their detergent works. They make detergent pods suitable for hand washing or small loads, and their sensitive skin formula is enzyme-free, so it can be used for washing protein fibers like silk and wool. If you decide to give Drops a try, use tinyurl.com/drops. That's all lowercase with 2 P's in Drops, so tinyurl.com/DROPPS. You will receive $10 off your first subscription order, and Drops will make a contribution toward the running of the show. Did I mention that not only does it work, but it's half the cost of the big name brands? tinyurl.com/DROPPS. It's what I use, and I love the results. A few months ago, I was approached about doing a review of an app called Knit Companion. I was told it's an app that helps knitters and crocheters keep track of their patterns as they work. Now, I had just finished working with a paper pattern using a magnet board and strip magnets to keep track of my progress, and twice I had dropped the board and knocked the magnet strips all askew and had to stop and figure out where I had been. So I was really excited to give this app a try. I mean, it's 2019. We should be able to move beyond the magnet boards. So I've had the app installed on my phone and iPad for a few months now, and there are not words enough to describe how fantastic this program is. I mean, I thought it would basically be a computerized magnet board with a way to view my pattern and with something on the screen to help me tick off the areas that I've already finished, and that would be it. But that is only the start of it. First of all, let me back up to say that my iPad is a dinosaur in computer terms. I got it 6 years ago. I mainly use it for watching streaming video and reading. So my first concern was that the program wasn't going to like my older iPad, but it installed easily and I have not had one issue with it in the 3 or so months I've been using it. I was also worried about how it would affect the battery because I travel a lot and I like to knit when I travel, but I've been able to use it for hours at a time. And I think I was looking at it one day and after 2.5 hours, the battery had only gone down about 10%. I think if I was doing some long haul traveling, I'd want to have a backup battery just in case, but it really is not a battery hog. Anyway, I got Knit Companion installed and opened and I started playing with it. It comes with one free PDF pattern already installed, but any pattern in PDF format can be opened in the app. If it's something you have in your Ravelry library, you can just log into Ravelry through the app and it will appear there for you. You can transfer patterns from Dropbox accounts, or if you have the PDF in an email on your device, you can click the little send to button that allows you to open it in iBooks or the Kindle app and instead just send it to Knit Companion. It's really, really easy. The program has 3 tiers. The first tier is totally free for you to use. You can load as many projects into the program as you want. And at that first tier, you get 2 lines on the screen called the row marker and the stitch marker. The row marker is a horizontal line that you can slide from one line of instruction or one line of the chart to the next to keep track of where you are going. And the vertical line moves left to right and allows you to mark where on the line you are if you have to stop midway across. There's also a red diamond called the You Are Here marker that you can make appear anywhere on the screen just by touching it with your finger for a second or so. At this tier, you can also rotate pages of your patterns, which often comes in handy with dealing with charts. Sometimes they will print the chart running vertically instead of horizontally on the paper to make room. And so you can turn that page so the chart runs from right to left instead of up to down. You can also take notes on your projects, and there is a nifty built-in timer that will keep track of how long you've had the pattern open. I thought that was neat for my own curiosity's sake, but if you knit for pay, that's a handy way to track your hours. That's all included for free in the first tier, and you can go download the app now and start using it and get rid of those magnet boards and not worry about accidentally knocking your magnet strip off kilter, and no more need to use washi tape to mark where you are and accidentally rip the print off your pattern when you move it. So it's really handy just in its free incarnation. But there is so much more to this program. The next tier is $9.99 a year, and that will upgrade you to the Essentials level, which adds a lot more features. First of all, you can highlight your pattern in multiple colors if you want, so you can keep track of different sizing or draw your attention to tricky instructions. The sliding lines I told you about that come with the free version, you can customize those to change their colors or width, or you can even invert them so that everything on the page gets colored except the line you're on, which is actually really handy when you're working from a chart. You can also crop the key out of your pattern and set it up in its own window at the bottom of the page so that as you work the written instructions or the chart, you don't have to flip back to different pages to check what the abbreviation or symbol means. The key is just right there for you at the bottom of the screen. If the key is too long on the page to fit well, you can actually split it in half and rearrange the halves so they're next to each other so that they fit at the bottom of the page better. And this I thought was amazing. If you are new to a stitch or technique and you need a video to help you, you can go to YouTube, find the instructional video, and then embed it in the pattern so that it's there at the bottom of the page waiting for you when you need to be reminded. It is so awesome. But that is not all. There's another tier called the Setup Plus Essentials tier for $14.99 a year that basically does everything you could possibly want in a program. You can set up multiple keys for the project. You can get a button on the side of the screen so that instead of having to drag the line that shows you what line you're on, you can just push the button and it'll move for you. You can crop sections of the pattern out, which is especially handy, again, when you're working with charts. You can mirror your charts if you need to. But maybe the coolest thing of all is, you know how you have some patterns that you work usually like for an Aran sweater or for a complicated lace piece, where it will tell you, okay, work chart A 3 times, then work chart B, and then work chart C 3 times. And, work like chart A is a 9-row repeat, and chart B is a 3-row repeat, and chart C is a 12-row repeat. So not only are you working across your row, you're dealing with 3 different charts, but you're also having to remember, okay, I'm on row 2 on chart A, and I'm on row 1 on chart B, and I'm on row 7 of chart C, and you have to keep track of all of that, and you start to lose your mind. A lot of knitters get around that by making copies of their pattern and cutting out the charts and gluing them into place so that it actually makes one large chart, and they can just use the giant chart just as a giant chart. Well, Knit Companion will allow you to do that on your iPad, and you don't have to print out the chart when you're done. You just end up with your giant chart there on the iPad, all pieced together in one, and you can just work back and forth across the row as it needs to go. It is fantastic. And if any of this sounds like it would be too complicated to figure out, I just want to say, be brave. KnitCompanion.com is full of very clear instructional videos on how to do it all. It is a very well-supported program with lots of help for new users. And here I thought that the whole program would just be a way to mark the lines of the pattern when I'm done with it. I haven't even told you all of the features. This app is amazing. I was given a free year of the Setup Plus Essentials so I could review it, but I am absolutely going to continue to subscribe to it because it has saved me so much annoyance in dealing with paper patterns. I know I still need to keep my magnet boards around because there are still going to be paper patterns from books or magazines that I'll want to knit, but I have found that a lot of indie designers now, even when they sell a paper pattern, like at a fiber festival, they're including a code on the pattern to download a PDF version through Ravelry. So I just foresee myself using Knit Companion more and more as time goes on. It is available for iOS and Android users. And if you want to try it out, like I said, the first tier is free. And then the other 2 tiers can be bought from within the app. And she will give you a week to try out the Essentials or Setup Plus Essentials levels for free. So you can really give it a go and see which level is right for you. For some, you may be happy with the basic free level. For others, the Setup Plus Essentials may save you an hour of copying, cutting, and pasting charts together and totally be worth the $15 a year. Check out knitcompanion.com and watch the intro videos. You can tell that this program was designed by a knitter. It is a game changer. And all of this reminds me, the other day on Instagram, I had Melinda, who is a beginner level knitter, ask me if I had any advice for her because she is struggling with reading patterns. I asked her what was giving her grief, and it sounds like it's frustration with having to look back at the key to see what the abbreviation means and having to go to YouTube to look up how to do a certain stitch again. And then she's lost her place and it's all a mess. Well, I think Knit Companion at the Essentials tier would be perfect for a beginner who is struggling in this way. As I said, it allows you to have the key at the bottom of the window at all times, so you don't have to flip, and you can look up videos for the stitches ahead of time and have them waiting there for you on the page as well. So when you hit an SSK, you can see on the key right below where you're working that it's a slip, slip, knit, and you can push a button to get to the videos you pulled up ahead of time and play the video to remind yourself how to do it. And all the while, your pattern is still there waiting at the top of the screen with the line you're on still marked and waiting for you. Another bit of advice I had for her was to knit dishcloths. Do people still do that? I feel like 10 or 12 years ago, that was a huge thing. There were mystery knit-alongs for them every month, and people were making them obsessively. But when I tried to Google some to show her, I couldn't find any groups. I did, however, find that Knit Picks has a huge catalog of dishcloths on their site for free. So I gave her a list of dishcloths to practice that built from just simple knits and purls to some shaping to some very basic lace techniques. And each cloth just added one new thing. So either a knitting technique or a pattern reading technique, like switching from working with words to working with charts. And I told Melinda she didn't have to make them as dishcloths. These are a great way to practice knitting. And if you make them out of any kind of machine washable yarn, you can sew them all together and make a blanket out of them. Anyway, put a pin in Melinda's conundrum for a minute. We're going to come back to it, but we're going to take a break right now for some more music. This is another song from Torelli and the Fuse. This one is called Forgive and Remember.
1, 2.
out of reach from my hopes and dreams. You played your part, you fooled me. Didn't want to face reality. And all the tangles of our past are smoking ashes now. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to be when you're me in times like these. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to see what is real. To be free, to be free. You want it only your way. Otherwise, you said you couldn't stay. You're so unsure of who you are. You turned something good into playing games. And all the tangles of our past are smoking ashes now. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to be when you're me in times like these. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to see what is real. To be free. I'm free 'cause I wanna be, and I've forgiven you, no need to speak. Grievous words stir up anger. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to be when you're me in times like these. Forgive and remember, it's the only way to see what is real. To be free, to be free. To be free.
So a few more things before I go. First, I mentioned in the last episode that I'll be going to the Massachusetts Sheep and Wool Craft Fair on Saturday, May 25th. The fair will also be going on the 26th, but I am going to throw my girls in the car and head there on the Saturday. If you'd like to go, it's at the Cummington Fairgrounds. I have not been to those fairgrounds before, but there will be a sheep show starting at 12:30. So at noon, I will go to the area where the sheep show will be taking place, and I will be there. If you would like to meet up or say hello, that's where you can find me. Or, if you just see me walking around, feel free to say hi. My daughters may or may not stay with me. At the last one, they went off together and explored because I was lingering too long among all the vendors. But if you see me, feel free to stop me and say hi. I have a handful of my stitch markers that don't have any partners, and I'll take them along and hand them out to folks who say hello. Also, my plans for the I-91 yarn hop are more solid now. June 27th, I'll be visiting the local shops around the Hartford area, and I'm going to make that a girls' day with my daughters because they're going to leave for camp the following day. But June 28th, I'll be visiting the shops in the New Haven area, and June 29th, I'll be visiting the stores in Massachusetts and Vermont. So if you'd like to try to coordinate times to meet up in a particular shop on the 28th or 29th, just let me know. Otherwise, if you happen to see me and say hello, that would be lovely. Don't be shy. I haven't had a chance to plan much for New York yet. I'll be there for 11 weekdays spread over 3 weeks in July, if that makes sense. And I've been there as a tourist enough times that I'm hoping to just wander around and experience the city itself this time while my daughter is in her classes. I want to hit as many of the yarn shops as possible, but there are quite a few on Manhattan Island. So if you know of any that I absolutely should not miss, please let me know. Second, let's do another giveaway. This time we're going with a summer theme. It finally felt like summer today, which is saying something because it's actually spring. And yesterday it was like 50 degrees. It's crazy, but today it topped up to 80. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it feels like summer. We're going to do a summer themed giveaway. I have a hank of that Dance Rustic Silk in Dragonberry from Dragonfly Fibers for you. Also, Knit Companion sent me a stand that you can use to hold up your tablet or phone while you use the app. Perfect for knitting outside at the beach or on your porch. Also, I have a brand new copy of Knitwear magazine from Spring/Summer 2018, so that's last year's to include, and I'll throw in a set of stitch markers. This giveaway is open to listeners worldwide. If you are a member of the Ravelry group or follow me on Instagram, you are already entered, but let's give you a way to earn some extra entries and help Melinda out. What is your best piece of advice for a beginner who is struggling to develop her pattern reading skills? Or maybe just your best piece of advice for a beginner. Hop over to the Ravelry thread for episode 8 and leave a bit of advice for Melinda and any other beginner knitters that we have out there, and I'll give you 5 extra entries for the giveaway. We were all new once. Spread your experience around a little and maybe win a free summer giveaway in the process. In the meantime, thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. If you would like to contact me, you can email me at ann@familypodcasts.com. That's Ann with an E at familypodcasts.com. I'm on Ravelry, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube as I Thought I Knew How. And if it's a place that allows you to put spaces between the words, then there are spaces between the words. Otherwise, it's all one word. The Facebook and Ravelry groups are both called I Thought I Knew How Podcast. I'm on Twitter as @ThoughtIKnewHow, and I have a website for the show at ithoughtIKnewHow.familypodcasts.com. There you will find the show notes for each episode, including links to products I've mentioned and ways to support the show. Every now and then I post a blog post there too. Remember, you can help the show by buying your laundry detergent from Drops. There'll be a link in the show notes for that. Thank you for your support. If you are a musician or know one and would like to have a song featured on the program, drop me an email and point me to where I can hear your music. You do need to be the copyright holder to be able to grant permission, so please keep that in mind. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.